Yeah, so we are going live, and John, I just want to ask you. Well, there are a lot of things I want to ask you because I heard you do an introduction to a well-known journalist, and I was incredibly impressed with your writing. And can you just talk about who you were introducing and what experience you have with them?
I was introducing what you're talking about, the Illinois News Broadcasters Association fall meeting that we just had here down in East Peoria. And before I get
Yeah.
going, Margaret, thank you for allowing me to come on your podcast. You and I work with IMBA quite a bit, but you and I really haven't talked much, so I'm looking forward to
No.
this.
Yeah.
But talking what you were saying, the Illinois News Broadcasters Association had its fall meeting down here in East Peoria, and I had the honor and privilege to introduce Maggie Vespa, who is a correspondent with NBC News. She actually was a weekend anchor reporter at WEEK TV when I first started there in November 2011. So for me, I was part-time editor and associate producer, and I worked under her when she did the weekends, usually help her put together the newscast, time them out, write any stories or anything that needed to be done. So I had the opportunity to work with her. And coming out of college and high school, where I did a lot of newspaper writing and covering a lot of things there, Maggie helped teach me a lot of the news business side and working with TV and whatnot. So she taught me how to write, condense, ask those questions that you try to get, especially with first responders or law enforcement over at a scene or something. And basically, she taught me how to be kind of a journalist, along with a lot of people in that newsroom when I first started. And working under her, just was able to find out how a great journalist was able to do her craft. And now the fact that I can wake up every morning, see her on the Today Show, see her on NBC News, run occasionally her stories in our newscast, and still be able to call her a friend and a colleague. It was truly an honor to invite her, and she was able to do it. And that was the first time we had seen each other since she left about 10, 12 years ago. And so we caught up, and I was able to meet her family. But we still reminisced about those times when she was training a young green producer who really didn't know his left from his right hand. And to be able to do that and to give her the notoriety that she deserved truly felt good to me, and I was happy to have her there. And I know everybody at INBA was excited for her speech.
Yeah, it was good. It was very good. And what are some tips that she gave you back then?
Oh, I'm just really trying to remember. A lot of that was, again, like I said, 12 years ago. The memory kind of
Or
is shot, but it's kind of like how to phrase questions to law enforcement. Maybe instead of coming straight up and straightforward, trying to get an answer to a shooting or a fire or something, maybe try to find or a back way to not go direct, but kind of a back way to get those answers that you may need or try to get. And I mean, just kind of how to condense your story more than anything, because she would be a VOSAT, she would be package for her as a general assignment reporter, and helping to write a young story right off the feet or rewriting it. I really didn't know how to. I did it in college, or just drag something in, but no one really looked hard at it. She did. She would tell me, hey, this isn't exactly what you need. You can trim it down here, instead of having a 50-second VOSAT or minute reader. It was 25, 30 seconds, which definitely you could put in more stuff to your shows that was needed.
yeah, so what are some writing tips? I mean, that's sort of connected to your really good writing because a lot of times there are tight deadlines and people have to know how to write very succinctly. So what are some ways that you've changed your writing to fit the broadcast?
I think ways I've changed my writing, and it constantly changes, of how things go in a newsroom nowadays. But you try to find the most important information. Like this morning, we had a house fire that displaced 10 people in Peoria. What would capture your audience's attention first? Not the fact that, oh, a fire was ruled accidental this morning. 10 people are without a home tonight. The Red Cross is helping them. That gets your attention right there. So what catches your attention? What was anyone injured or something that could easily lead off your story? Or then you quickly go into where it happened, but don't say like 2400 block of whatever street. No one knows where the 2400 block is of whatever. And even one of my executive producers at the station, who's been in this industry quite a long time, has said that, you know, put street names. Okay, it's near Flora and McClure intersection or something like that, and it happened about midnight. Then you kind of go into those finer details of what they're telling you. People got out safe, or somebody got out injured, but they've been taken to the hospital. They're going to survive. You kind of look for those key bits and pieces. If you're writing a newspaper copy or a web version of the story, you can add some of those details. But in TV, like right now, it's 6 o'clock as we're recording this, and your 6 o'clock news, you're aiming to get 12, 13 stories in your show, but you got to go kind of quick. So what's the details, but you're not missing anything as you're trying to get that story down to 25, 30 seconds for somebody to read.
Yeah, sometimes I'm in those situations. Sometimes I wonder how those things actually began. Like they'll say, "Oh, there's a fire at this place," and I think, "What caused the fire?" But do they have to wait a while to get that information?
From what I understand of it, and I mean, you've got to do investigations and into everything. Sometimes you may never know what caused the fire. We had a deadly fire here that killed a 12-year-old girl in a town near us in Creve Coeur a couple years ago, right about this time actually, and we never learned the cause because the house was was completely destroyed or something. Sometimes they can easily see, okay, there was too many things plugged into a surge protector, and or someone deep fried a turkey, and that's what caused it. So sometimes it's easy to tell, but for other times you may never know the cause. Or if they rule it accidental, what does that mean? Was it accidental smoking material, or someone put their smoking materials in the wrong place, or left something on? You never know. You kind of have to go with that. And sometimes if you have those questions, it's easy to reach out to the public information officer or chief to try to get that information.
Yeah, and then do you guys update if you can't get that information that same day, do you give updates on another day?
If we get any updates, yeah, we do. We try to update it as long as we or as much as we can. We had a restaurant that caught fire here in Goodfield, right off the interstate. That was very popular. And Wednesday we did the original story that, hey, the restaurant's closed. They don't know what caused it. But come Saturday, we found out, hey, the restaurant is now going to be closed until the new year, and there's a GoFundMe set up for the people who work there. So how can people help and go there? And now the fact that they're going to be able to cook some pies at an off-site location, that's some new details to a story that you're following up on. We may learn what caused that fire tomorrow or some other day, and if that's the case, then that's another story that you can add to your rundown and try to continue to follow it as much as you can until they reopen.
Hmm. Now, well, back to the writing. When you did that introduction for Maggie, the national correspondent,
Mm-hmm.
it was so well written. I thought to myself, what is, I've got to ask this guy what his writing background, because even your emails are very correct and professional and well written. So, what's your writing background?
Well, I first started off. I wanted to be a journalist since I was 4 years old. So this was always something passion of mine. It was at first was weather, then it went into the news and sports industry. But I started out writing newspaper articles back when I was in junior high and high school, covering ball games, covering twisters when they came through our towns, or just anything else that was going on. I had a couple correspondentships with two local newspapers up where I grew up near LaSalle, Peru, Illinois. And then as I gradually went on, I just learned more how to write went to college, wrote for the college newspaper at my community college, but just had that background of kind of writing those journalism related articles. And now, as I slide into the role that I am in now as an assignment manager in TV, always setting up interviews or even trying to get information, I just try to sound professional. I just don't try to go like, hey, what's the details of this? I just try to sound professional, because sometimes if you get that, they may not think, oh, this is some kid who doesn't know what he's doing. And when I know when I'm sending an email or I'm placing a phone call to somebody, I'm representing not only myself but the place I'm working for.
Yeah, but also I noticed that your grammar is very good because people's grammar is not as careful because I think with casual communication. So, what, I mean, are you aware of that or is it just natural?
I don't know if I really am, if I noticed it at all. And I thank you for saying that, because to be honest, I really didn't notice that at all when I wrote that speech for Maggie, and then writing anything else. I know there's some apps that we use at the station that change grammar, called Grammarly, or a few other things that can help make it sound a little bit more professional. But I really haven't noticed it. That's just how I've usually wrote things, and I could tell you sometimes my grammar is not that great, but for somebody to say that to me, especially you, and because I know you do a lot of writing for your job, and I appreciate you saying that.
Oh, thanks. Now, so you said you went to community college or you went to got your associates?
I graduated from Putnam County High School in 2007. Putnam County is the smallest county in the state of Illinois. It used to be the largest at one point in time, encompassed Rockford and Chicago, but then the land got sold and made it to what it is today. Then I went to a community college, which was right into town over, Illinois Valley Community College, back in 2009. I graduated there with an associate in arts degree. And then I transferred to Western Illinois University in Macomb. Graduated there in 2011. I had a major in I did broadcasting major and a journalism minor that I did there. And then when I was hired at WEK, I had graduated Western maybe about 6 months and couldn't find a job. Struggled to find anything, and luckily somebody I had worked with in college had a part-time gig at the station, put my name in, said you'd be crazy not to hire him, and Lord behold, things came together and I got hired there part-time, and I've worked my way up the leadership board to become a manager at the station I grew up watching.
Nice. And what was Western like? Did you like their program? Because did they cut it recently or what's going
Yeah,
on?
they've, from what I understand, and I don't know a lot. I know Western has consolidated quite a bit, but from my understanding, the journalism and broadcasting department are kind of now, from what I understand, merged together. Western's gone through quite a change. I enjoyed my time at Western. I went down there with a couple good friends from the community college that I had left, but met some great people down there at Western Illinois University. Some of them turned out to be great friends, best friends. Ironically, one of them I just recently saw a couple weeks ago during our election coverage. He was a political analyst, and I was at his wedding about 10 years ago, so it was good to catch up with him. But we called a lot of ball games down there, and were able to do well. Again, was able to network with a lot of great people who, like me, were fighting to be in the journalism field and or sports broadcasting field, and just even outside of the broadcast business there. Met some great friends that are still great friends with me. We talk every other day or so to stay caught up, and go down and see them occasionally. But Western was good. Macomb was good. It was far enough away that I wasn't home, but it was close enough that I could drive up if something was going on, or if there was anything that I needed to get taken care of. I could drive up. It was about 2.5 hours away from home. But good memories from Western, and great opportunities that I am very appreciative of, that's helped lead me to where I am today.
Well, what made you, you said you were interested in journalism since you were four. What made you so passionate about it?
I really don't remember what got me into it. I, I I was first off. I wanted to be a meteorologist. I wanted to be a weatherman. We had a kids festival during the winter season, and I was watching this guy's forecast, and you could do a forecast with him taped live, and I recited his whole forecast back to him, and he's just like, "Wait, he just did what? How old was he?" And impressed him so much, we did a second recording. You never
Wow.
got that, and this was back in like 91, 92 ish era. So I always wanted to be a weatherman, but then I got told, yeah, you needed to know algebra and calculus, and I'm barely lucky to know what 5 times 8 is sometimes. So I kind of gone away from that, but the weather passion stayed. I could talk your ear off on that, but we'll do that another day. But when I learned that was kind of what the weather aspect was, I had also got dabbled my feet in the sports journalism, writing the newspaper articles. Joined our high school television network, which broadcasted all of Putnam County sports on tape delayed basis, and enjoyed sports. So that's what drew me to that, and had a couple great leaders there that was like, hey, if you want to do the game here, do it, and ended up running the station at one point in time, organizing crews and everything there. So that helped get the sports juices flowing, and that's really what I wanted to do. When you watch the Super Bowl, when you watch the games tonight on TV, I wanted to be that guy, and that is one thing I truly miss. But I didn't go after it because they said that was the hardest job to ever get into, is sports broadcasting. And as much as it pained me not to do that, I had also done a little bit of news, covering some tornadoes and other news topics, but I was always a journalism junkie, watched the news with my father and mother, and read the newspapers and whatnot. So when they said you can learn how to put together a newscast in college, took that class, learned how to report, did a story once a week for the TV station there for college, and then we ended up being able to produce our own newscast. And producing a newscast was very challenging, and it still is to this day. I had to do it today, fill in role, and to try to figure out what you put. You're the keeper. You're the one who tries to figure out what is important to tell the viewers or the listeners what is going on in their country and their world. And nowadays, you have so much that you can go get via Twitter, True Social, all those social media aspects, Facebook and whatnot. Now, 12, 15 years ago, you could never do that. It was always the newspaper industries, when we were the newspapers and the TV, the 6 o'clock news. Now I know everything before the 6 o'clock news. So to see how that it's a challenge that still challenges me to this day.
Well, yeah, but you were born, near the turn of the century, and there was digital already starting. And then by the time you were old enough, you were in digital, right? Or you were at least on.
When I was in college, and ironically, my friend Dakota, that I was alluding to earlier, that was our political analyst for the election day, we were actually just talking about that. Back in 2009, Facebook and MySpace were all getting up to speed. And in high school, we didn't have. Twitter was maybe just starting. I maybe was tweeting a little bit, but not that much. In college, we were tweeting some updates to games, and we were doing live blogging, which
Mm.
which you don't even hear about now. And even
Well,
then,
the
we
New York
had,
Times does it.
well, yeah, they do now, or they did some, but for like college, we didn't even know what all that was. We would also be told you really couldn't shoot stories off your phones. The phone video quality was just awful. But now, after I got into when I left Western and came to WEK, 2012, we started getting our own Facebook pages. Everything started going Facebook. Nowadays, especially during the pandemic, a lot of us, we were shooting video off our phones. Now we're shooting a whole stories off our phones. I've shot video off my phones for fires, shootings, car crashes. Nowadays, 10, 12 years ago, we weren't even doing anything of that because we were just told the quality was awful. And to see how much technology has changed and continues to change. Another thing I was thinking of here earlier, a lot of people have cut the cable. You know, we you would get your dish and direct TV or whatever landline you had. You had landline phones. No one has those anymore. Everybody's cut the cable to streaming services. I couldn't even told you that 12 years ago in college where that was. Everything that I learned back in college is almost obsolete. You even look at some of the newscasts and the quality that they're in. We record them on VHS tapes. You can't even play VHS tapes anymore. DVDs are gone by the wayside. So it's just like how things have changed on the technological side. 4 years ago, we were just learning how to do these type of interviews with people, and now they're everyday occurrence.
Hmm. But what's interesting is that you did see the evolution of it and you've seen the changes and you've grown with it. But what kind of advice do you have for people who are coming up after you?
I would say be a sponge and be always willing to learn. You never stop learning in whatever you do, whether you're in journalism or not, because there's things that I've learned how to do or programs that I'm learning here now. I couldn't even told you how to run them. When I was growing up, my parents were like, "Okay, you know how to hook up the VCR and the TVs. You go do it. The coaxial cables. Now you don't even need those coaxial cables, but how to figure out how to run something. I'm asking people younger than me now because I don't know some of these programs. I just don't know how, and I'm trying to figure out how to use them so I don't become ancient or somebody who can't be able to do a job nowadays.
Hmm. Well, it just seems like in the media, you're always learning something new. That's what's required and meeting the
and
deadline.
and not just that, just the way media, like we said earlier, is consumed, and what we ask our reporters to do at any TV station nowadays is just crazy. At WEK, you walk in at some reporters walk in at 9:30. We give them their assignments by 10 o'clock. By 11:30, you need to have at least two sources or at least one source ready. You've placed calls, you're out the door. You somehow get a break in to get a sandwich or a breather, and your first story airs at 4 o'clock. Oh, by the way, call us and give us an update if you're in a murder trial or something so we can get it updated and push that all up online. What journalists do nowadays is, I mean, yes, there's a lot that is done, but it blows my mind sometimes of what they do and the time allotted. They do tremendous work, and I'm always in awe of them because I've seen it firsthand. But to see how they do it, and their stories are airing right now or something tonight, and just what people in our field, even newspaper or radio, I assume it's the same way nowadays. But the way that they're able to push all that information while trying to become experts in that own field. There's times that if you're doing a property tax story, I don't understand that. But now I've got to go figure out somebody who can explain it to me so then I can sound like I know exactly what that is and be able to explain it fully, not only to the person who's editing my script, but also to the viewer at home and do it within a minute, 30 minute, 40 seconds.
Yeah, and I just want to, say that you're really very passionate about news, and you're like a lot of other people I've met who want to get into sports broadcasting, but they don't pursue the other things. But how do you feel about not working in sports broadcasting?
I've known a few people here locally, especially back up in the Illinois Valley, and a couple of them have retired. But I know a few people locally that have done it. They come on our shows to do it. To say it's something that I would try to chase right now. I've been out of it for 12 years. Um, could I easily throw on a microphone and probably be able to explain a full court press in basketball or call a touchdown for the Super Bowl? I probably could, but the way that it's done nowadays, I probably would sound so out of touch that it could easily, for me, sound like I know what I'm doing, but the way the game has changed and how things are done there, I probably would think I'm doing well, but some people may not. So again, it's something I would love to do if I could dabble in it, do an inning or inning or two or something else like that. I'd always welcome the opportunity. I do know there's a local TV station here in Peoria. It's not ours, but they broadcast some high school sports on their own stuff, and they have some of their own staff people who do it. But if we ever had an opportunity to do that here with WEK, if that ever opened up or something, I wouldn't mind saying, "Hey, let's talk about it."
Yeah, because it seems like a lot of people want to do that. Now, when so you've been in the business, you said 12 years.
I've been professional for 12. I did with all the high school stuff. Granted, a lot of people don't consider high school and whatnot their career, but I actually worked for several different newspapers. I'd say probably around 20, and that may be a
Wow.
little more excessive, but for TV side, it's been about 12.
So in all those years, what are some things that you've learned over time?
Oh, too many to count. Probably one thing especially is don't be afraid to ask a stupid question because you may think it's stupid, and I tell this to our new people every day. You may think it's a stupid question of how do I do something here or not, but there may be somebody there who doesn't know how to do it and is also afraid to ask it. But also, another thing that I've learned is just don't be starstruck. For me, I grew and we laugh, but for me, I grew up watching WEK up at home. This was the station that told me my school was closed when it snowed. They came covered our hometown when a tornado hit 20 years ago and whatnot. I grew up watching these people, and I walk into a newsroom, and here these people are, and for me, it's just like I can't believe where I am. So I learned, hey, these people are normal people, and I've come to become good friends with them, and learn a lot from them. So the people who I work with, they are normal people too, just like you and me. They have their own lives outside of the building, but people who you see on that air, they are the same people as they are off the air.
Mhm.
Um, I think I've also learned that sometimes it is a little bit more difficult than we think it is to learn information from crime scenes. You see it on NCIS or Chicago Fire or PD or any of those shows. It takes an hour to solve a whole case.
Mhm.
No, it don't. No, it
Yeah.
don't, because you go cover a shooting. Sometimes you don't learn any information until the next day because the police don't know that information, but you don't know the who, what, when, where, why, or why it even happened until maybe 6, 8 months later when you have a trial that's going on. Excuse me, and figuring out then, okay, covering that. And sometimes you don't even know for 2 years. So you learn things in that courtroom that sometimes it takes that long to figure out what happened, and the right people have to be accounted for in that case. So not knowing everything within the first 5 minutes, you definitely learn that quickly, and that's another thing I've learned. um, Probably just how to ask questions, how to be a leader, my or how to be able to shoot video correctly. My now news director was in my role when I first started 12 years ago, and he's become a great friend and leader. You and I sat with him at a recent wedding, and um,
That was a
that
fun wedding.
that was Jeff and Aaron, who I worked with, and now they're in bigger markets, and I'm happy for them. But that man, Leon Hendricks, my now news director, He taught me he was a lot of the or a lot of people there. He taught me everything I know at that building. He pulled me off to the side. Hey, I would ask this question, or I wouldn't act that way for a certain reason, or hey, he took me once with a camera because I didn't know how to shoot a fire, pulled me off, and we sat right behind one of the anchors doing looking at scripts, and he says, what's 5 things you this building's on fire, what's 5 things you can film? And that I learned from him that day, and that little exercise I've used to other people. So how to act professionally instead of acting like a kid sometimes as well, because for a lot of us this is our first job out of college, um, and how to be able to ask questions and get what you need from people. That is a lot of things that I've also learned there. There's so much that I could say that I've learned since I've started at WEK, but this podcast could easily go 4 hours.
Well, this podcast has been long for, a few times, but it sounds like Leon is a big mentor for a lot of people.
He is. He's done. He helps you learn, and he helps you learn from the mistakes that you've made. And when he got promoted to the news director job in 2021, I think everybody in that building was so excited for him because he knows how to lead people, but let alone let us kind of have a relaxed atmosphere, be able to have fun. But hey, it's crunch time. Here's how we do it. And if you make a mistake or need advice, he's more than willing to give it to you and help you become a better journalist, because he has done that in his time there, and it's over 20 plus years there in the broadcast industry. So to be able to say that I work for him and that I have learned a lot from him uh, is something that I cannot repay him enough. And I do say that to him quite a bit. And a lot of people we saw at the wedding we were at last month, a lot of people were saying that to him there as well, because he has taught a lot of people who have now gone on and work in other aspects of the TV business and the other stations, or have got out and work in radio or somewhere else. He has taught a lot of people. And to say that you can work for a good mentor wherever it is, not only just WEK, but if you can find a good mentor wherever you're working at or in college, I would encourage you to get that. I have had a lot of great mentors, not just Leon, but and not just some people here at WEK. There's a couple professors from Western Illinois that I've stayed in contact with, and I will go to him if I've got questions, if I should start looking for a job, or hey, I heard this guy just got hired here. What do you know of him? They know a lot of people, and they're able to network with you quite a bit, so they can help get your name out. And that is, again, that networking aspect that we go back to. You brought it up earlier, and that helps a lot of people nowadays, networking.
That's true. But then also, it's not just networking, but it's also being able to do the job because the media is intense.
Yes,
So,
especially nowadays, the way journalism has changed, I would say, in the last 8 to 10 years, since probably a couple of years after I joined or I got in. The way this business, this industry has changed, the way that people get their news has completely changed. We said that earlier, but it is, this job is more difficult than it has been. Um, and that is something that I still try to learn from. Okay, how do you adapt to not only the change but the difficulty? Sometimes it is very difficult to get information on a crime scene or a fire or any events that are going on nowadays, because people use social media or people just don't respond. Um, just the way people have to get involved, and sometimes we're impatient. We're like everybody else. What happened? Why did it happen? But sometimes you may not know that answer for good 2 3 hours, but we're like everybody else. Well, what happened? Why can't you tell us? Because we're
Mhm.
still learning it ourselves. And once we know, you'll know.
Mhm. Now, let me ask you, you mentioned Putnam County.
Mm-hmm.
You said at one point it was the biggest county.
That
Why
is
was
what
that? What are you talking about?
I and size wise, I think it was in the 1800s, late to mid eight or early to mid 1800s. It was really big. I think, and this is something that I have heard. I don't know if it's exactly true or not, that the governor sold the land to make it its own county and whatnot. But so it is the smallest county in the state of Illinois. It is right off of I-80 and about 20 minutes away from Starved Rock State Park, where a lot of people go, and it's beautiful all the times of the year. It's an hour and a half from Quad Cities, Peoria, just under an hour, just over an hour. Chicago, it's solid 2. St. Louis, it's a good 2.5, 3 hours. But there's a lot of good people there, and they were there, especially when I was growing up. They would take care of me. Good people there in Putnam County who take care of themselves and each other. And there's a lot of great people all over, but Putnam County took care of me, and I was always appreciative of them. I learned a lot up there during my formative era or my years there. And met some great people who I still stay in contact with here today occasionally. I've sometimes go up there, for things that are going on or church related activities. But I'm always proud to say I'm from Putnam County. When people ask where I'm from, sometimes I have to say it's Starved Rock or it's about an hour away. But I'm always proud to call myself a native of Putnam County.
Are you from a small town?
Yeah, I grew up in Granville, which is the biggest town in that county of about 1,400. A lot of people heard of
The
Granville.
biggest town is 1400.
Yeah,
Okay.
the schools itself. I When I graduated in 2007, I graduated with a high school class of 52.
Wow.
Currently, there was a referendum to merge the 4 school buildings into one again. And from a reporting that we did here just right afterwards, I think there's about 800 kids in that school district right now, which is a K through 12. Um, so a lot of so it's very small. It's a lot of farmland. There's really not much in that county. Back in the day, there was a big steel mill. That a lot of people worked at, and it closed. Then it came back, then it closed again, and it imploded. They imploded the building because it was unsafe. I'd say a few years ago. But a lot of people have heard of Granville. That was hit in 2004 with the Granville Utica tornado back on April 20th, 2004. That tornado killed 8 people, unfortunately, over in Utica, and did kill somebody in Granville. But a lot of people have heard of us from there. Back in 2007, we put Putnam County on the map in basketball because all my fellow classmates, and best time I had as a broadcaster because I was able to broadcast all the way. We went to the state tournament down here in Peoria, and we put Putnam County back on the map there in sports. Our baseball team for high school has done very well, getting a lot of regional and sectional championships and making it to the state finals. So um, a lot of people know Putnam County in the sports world. News wise, it's fairly quiet, and I think a lot of people like that as well.
Well, what's it like to grow up in such a small town? Do you know everybody or do you know people who know people?
You know everybody. You know everybody. Everybody's related to somebody. And unfortunately, I was not related to somebody in that county. All my mom's relatives were up in Chicago area. All my dad's was out of state. But I've kind of forced my way into those high school, cliques or everything. Especially doing broadcasting in high school, a lot of them were like, "Hey, Johnny, can you mention this in the game?" Or, thanks for giving us a shout out on air. Because those were my classmates, and sometimes they were my friends, and sometimes that worked out that I could use their knowledge and expertise to be on the air. But when you grew up knowing everybody, sometimes you hear things, or if you got into trouble, you knew it was going to get shared with everybody. But even being in a small town, we went to church, my family and a lot of those people we're still close with. And we sometimes will go up and see them or a few times a year and see how they're all doing, or if they've, with a funeral, sometimes we've gone up for them. And I still stay in contact with a few of them, and that's a great thing now with social media. Back in the day that was just starting, but now there's a few people I haven't spoken with, but I see that they're married, they've got kids now, and they've moved on, and it's a perfect way that I can stay in touch with them and be able to follow what they're doing. If you see their parents at a game or something, always catch up. Hey, how's Janice or somebody doing now? Because I see them down there. It's always good to be able to stay in contact. And they always are like, "We watch you, John. We're so proud of you. You've made us all proud." And that that weighs heavy on me, because this was a station, like, for me growing up, and I watch it. When my mom lived up there still for quite a few years before she moved up to with her sister, uh, they would ask her, "Hey, why did this person leave at the station? What's going on there?" They would ask my mother, not me. So they were trying to find out, and I'm like, I don't know. So it was always kind of funny, um, but it's always good to go home a few times and catch up with everybody. But they help take care of me. They, when we were at ball games, they would sometimes drive me or help drive me up there, drive me back, or if I said something kind of crazy on the TV, they would always be the ones that, like, "Johnny, are you sure you meant that on air? Maybe I shouldn't have said
Funny.
that." I and it wasn't anything bad, but it was just kind of one of those, you're 15, 16-year-old kid. Sometimes you don't know any better, but those are your best friends on the court or on the field. So that sometimes that part is like, we know everybody around here.
Wow. Yes, it's hard. You can't be anonymous without
It,
people finding out your business.
No, no. Everybody knows your business, and, well, because a lot of people are related to everybody up there. But that's also the fun part, because when you do reunions, you can always find out how everybody is. We did a 10-year class reunion a few years ago in high school, and to be able to see all of them and catch up, and they're like, "Yeah, we follow you. We see all the stuff you post, and articles you post, or stories, and we watch you." So that to see them and be able to and to see what they're doing and catch up, even when they're coaching a game, and if they're down in this neck of the woods, I go watch them and ask them, "Hey, how's Carlton or Kevin or whoever there is doing?" And you get to catch up easy, because their parents were there. They were in school when you were in school. They went through the same school system you were. They were on great clubs, so they knew what they were talking about. And being that close knit community, and being a journalist there, that actually helped me a few times. My science teacher in junior high was the high school varsity basketball coach. Before anyone else got the story of him resigning, he called me and said, "Hey, I want to give it to you." And I actually just this past year, when I saw him, thanked him for that, because I was like, "Hey, you gave a young rookie kid who, was doing everything and just learning. You could have given it to anybody else there." And we talked about that, and I told him I was very appreciative of it. The kids trying to help out. When I asked them, "Hey, what do you know about this team or that?" They would help me out occasionally if needed. Um, but sometimes it came in useful to know people, and you can learn things, and they'd be more than willing to help you out there as well. When my father passed in 2013, a lot of them came to the visitation or funeral, or sent me a message. Some of them I hadn't heard from since we were in school. And even some of the people I met, that was state baseball tournaments, and they knew people playing in there, but they came to the funeral to be there, because they knew that I would need the support, and I was thankful for them to do that, and we still stay in contact today. So, like I said, it's like any small town that you would grow up in. Great small towns all over this country, but Putnam County and Granville have always got a special place in my heart. And if I could stay out there and do what I have to, and what I could do for a job, I probably would. But with it being a good hour and a half away, that 3 hours on the road and 8 hours of work, that would wear you out, and it did within the first couple of weeks before I moved down here.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. So, anything else you'd like to say or get any advice or anything?
Like I said, for advice, I would just be willing to ask questions. Never be afraid to ask a question, no matter what it is. Because and you're playing ignorance sometimes, but don't be afraid to ask that question, because there's things you do not know. I do not know, and you've got to sometimes ask 2 3 times. I don't get this. Why? What? Why is this the way it is? And perfect example, I hear you do that several times in INBA board meetings, or just meetings itself in general, and those are the reason why reporting the story, you can easily be like, okay, I understand this part, to help make somebody at home or me understand it while I'm looking at your script. That we said that earlier, but never be afraid to ask that question. Always be always, like, if you're a college student, you're watching this, excuse me, but never be afraid to hand out your business card. I all or ask for their business card, I should say. Ask you or me or a professional their business card, or get their contact information. With the Simba Awards at INBA, I would go up and talk with some of those kids, to one, to try to see if they're interested in internships, but two, hey, where are you going? What are you guys looking for? Maybe give them some advice, because who knows, that advice that I could give them from what I learned uh, could easily help them, and they can pass that advice on to other people. So always be willing to ask a question, always ask for advice, and just be a sponge. Be a sponge, because you're never going to stop learning. And the day you stop learning, that's about the time you could say, I'm done. I'm out of here, because you've always got to learn. You've always got to adapt and grow and change the way you do things. I've changed the way I've produced shows. I've changed the way I've written scripts or written speeches. And when you do that and you adapt and you change, one, that shows that you're learning and that you're able to do those things. So then you can be able to grow and help the next generation that definitely needs it. So then they can help the next generation.
Hmm. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. And that is all I have to say, but let me just stop this for a second. And I really appreciate you coming on. But like as I'm stopping this, let me just, I'm glad that you share I'm glad that you shared your passion with everybody and with me, because it definitely comes through.
Thank you, Margaret, for allowing me to do that, and allowing me to be part of your podcast here today. And hopefully somebody be able to learn. And if anyone's got any questions, they can always feel free to reach out or to me. And never be afraid to call us on IMBA or something. We'd be more than willing to help them out there as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's the thing about also the INBA. How did you get involved with that?
Tanya Kuntz. Tanya Kuntz Williams was a big part of why I became part of INBA. Also, Mike Militich and Jeff Burnett. I don't remember how I learned. I think I knew of INBA from when back in college, but I really never did much with it.
Mhm.
But I kind of knew a lot of our newsroom was part of it, and I talked with Tanya a little bit about it, and she was another one that I've learned a lot from, and when she was with us at WEK, and I'm glad to call her a comrade and a friend, but she meant her and Mike, and we're all like, hey, the meeting's in Bloomington. Why don't you come over for the day? And I came over to the meeting and met a lot of people that I didn't know, but a few that I did, and was able to learn and grow from there, and be able to network. Again, we go back to that network part of it, and was nominated for the board by Jeff out of the blue, and I'm like, I'm not even a member yet. I'm here as a visitor, and I lost out on the board, but I felt like I was learning a lot during our sit down group gatherings, and also um, just throughout it, speaking to people that I was meeting with, that you yourself included, and H and Rachel and Emily, who are all part of the board, and um, things kind of went by, or kind of happened. Some people left the board, and Rachel called Tanya and said, if John's still interested, we'd be more than willing to have him on the board and to fill out a term. And Rachel, Tanya, and I spoke over the phone, and I felt more than honored to be part of the board, being to help fill a term, and recently reelected to the board, because I feel being on the IMBA board and a member of IMBA itself, that helps the new generation, and not just the new generation, but us journalists as a whole, to learn how to become better at our craft. We always ask, how can I be better at my craft? IMBA allows us to do that. This past at the spring fall meeting, excuse me, here that we had Maggie speak at here just recently, we learned about opioid overdoses and why it's causing a major problem, not only here in Peoria but across the state. That meeting we were at in 2022, that I came in Bloomington, we were talking electric vehicles, and the way electric vehicles are now part of the everyday use here in not only Central Illinois but the world. That was just so helpful in learning and being able to understand and be able to ask questions, not only to professionals that work with you every day, but professionals who work in other different stations, but we're also asking the same questions. And I've been able to become good friends with a lot of people there with IMBA, and that's just helped grow me as a better journalist, but also as a better person as well, and help. I've learned a lot from those people, and to meet good journalists and how they do their job. Emily Manley down there in Missouri is the Capitol Bureau Chief down there. Rachel Littman, who works in the newspaper industry. How you do your job nowadays up there in Chicago, let alone I can see my good friends Mike and Maggie, who are IMBA members as well, and just others, and how they help college kids as well. And that's one thing. Not only just networking, you submit your stuff in a spring meeting, not only for Simba Awards, but you also can get your stuff looked at by a professional. Where else can you do that?
Mm-hmm.
You bring your stuff before on a resume reel, and they could say, hey, that right there looks pretty good, or I would maybe take that out. And that little 20-minute interaction with them can maybe be the difference of you waiting 6 to 8 months like I did to get a job, compared to, hey, I like your stuff, here's my business card, why don't we
Mm-hmm.
talk here once you graduate?
Yeah,
Where else
so
could you get that?
yeah, that's true. So obviously you're saying that you think it's still beneficial for people to join.
I think it's beneficial to join all. I mean, 100%. The conventions are very informative, and you learn things. Just this recent convention when we did the Emiquan trip, man, just
That was cool. Yeah.
how we learned the watershed. I covered something like that 20 plus years ago up in Hennepin when they were doing the water life, but to learn how that is just 50 minutes from where I live right now, and how that is helping to shape the environment and in the world that we're in right now. That was just, man, I wish I had a camera myself to take all the notes, and how to cover opioids, the election, how we can better ourselves in election coverage and or just anything else in general. I think is I know it's been beneficial to me since I've joined IMBA because I learned from great journalists who are there. And not only just that, it gets you to meet more people outside of your newsroom. Again, you're from Chicago. I'm from down here in Peoria. Rachel, Emily down near St. Louis, Missouri area. You've got Greg Duffin or Greg from WREX who just left. He was up in Rockford. Maggie from IFR. There's a lot of people that I probably would have never met if it wasn't joining INBA. Who I'm able to speak with and ask them how things are going in their newsroom and what's working for them that maybe I can bring down to Peoria and we put we put it in effect there and see how it goes and helps our stuff.
Hmm. Okay. All right, let's see. So I think we